This mill's in the travel position right now. It's ready to hook to and go down the road. So you notice the only leg I have down is the front leg.
Okay.
Well, I get the front like I want it, the hitch in like I want it. You can tell I'm a little bit high on the hitch compared to the tail end. Reason being all of my weight, which is the head sitting behind the axle. That's the balancing point for travel. And you probably
So about right here is where you want the head if you're traveling?
Yeah, there's a pin.
Oh, there's a pin?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I'll go through all that here in a little bit. But anyway, you've watched enough videos to know the hitch end's the starting point for each cut. So when I move that head back to the hitch end, that weight will transfer and I can bring the tail end up to match.
Okay.
So my point in saying all this is start off just a little bit high on the hitch.
Okay.
Come straight in the rear, drop this leg. Right now on the next tail hold. Just there. Now I'm gonna tighten this up. What I'm gonna do is just snug it up pretty well. About like that.
So do you just eyeball it or is there actual level on this thing?
You try to get perfect level, you're killing time.
Okay.
So just eyeball side to side, each tail end. These legs, drop it. Debarker, this is just a little travel pin for the debarker. Keep it for swinging for travel. Unhook it. I always hang it right back there so I don't lose it.
Okay.
Coming on a round fender, you have little rubber straps on each side. They just simply slide right out of that slide. You can see the little hook
Okay.
here with the straps they come. You have to take the fenders off the side.
Okay. So both fenders come off the saw?
Yep.
Okay.
I always store them underneath the mill here. That way the line's not going to roll and crush them. I'm not going to drive off them for good. All right, back around this way. Safety chain, this is just an added safety for travel. Unhook
Okay.
it, let it swing.
Okay.
Sawdust chute, little strap, drop it, and your strap back. Fuel tank, this is a fuel shutoff valve. This is, I call it a return line, but it's not really, it's a vent line. You can thank the EPA for this. They say you no longer have a tank that vents to the outside. So what I've seen here, and the only reason I go over this with customers is I've seen this little thing get stopped up for whatever reason, or not vent like it should. And it'll pressurize the main fuel line at the point. It pushes gas through the injectors, fills the cylinders up with gas. You got to pull the spark plugs because it's hydraulic lock, it's aggravating. Anytime it's not in use, keep this valve at 3 o'clock where it is now.
Okay.
In use 12.
Okay.
So we're fixing to use it, so we'll go ahead and turn it gas.
All right.
Coming on around, same thing with this fender. Slide it out. Slide underneath it. Now, any chance you'd happen to have like a cordless 1/2-inch drive impact?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all that.
All right. Get you an 1.25 socket. Keep it with it.
Okay.
That way you're not sitting here cranking on.
Right. I see most guys running down with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's way quicker. So. Okay. Same thing with this one. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little pressure on these. Yeah. Okay. Now, what I've got to do now, guys, is I've got to bring this head back to the hitch end. And I've got to raise the head up to the point that I clear my loading arms. And everybody says, once you drop that down out of the way so you don't have to raise the head with, and well, I can. The reason being, the hydraulics are dead until that head is on this 6-foot strip here. This is what supplies the power to your pumps inside the hydraulic box.
Okay.
So always remember that. If the head's not on that strip, the hydraulics will not function.
So you can't turn or make any adjustments until you're back here?
With the hydraulics.
With the hydraulics,
Yep.
okay.
Another little thing I like to point out when you're raising this lid, you look back here on the back, you see this cable?
Yeah.
That's your transducer cable. That's what tells the computer where the head is. I see a lot of people, they'll just barely miss the back of the box. See what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
You're gonna snap it off. So anytime you get you're raising this lid, once you get it about this point, push it all the way down and roll it back.
Oh, okay.
Just be kind of mindful of that. We'll go over all this with you. Like I tell people, be patient. You don't get off. This is one of those do as I say, not as I do kind of moments. And the reason I'm going to operate these hydraulics without the engine running, so I don't have to try to knock over it.
Okay.
But you notice the 140 amp alternator sitting over here on the right, that's there to supply the power back to the battery. Everything's powered off of that battery. So when you get home, raise the head up, bring it back, get it on the strip, make sure the engine's running, and then just start playing with these hydraulics so you get the feel of it. It'll get where you don't even have to look down here. You'll know exactly which handle to grab. But there again, make sure the motor's running or you'll kill that battery in a hurry.
Okay.
So, but for what little bit I'm gonna do now.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do first is lower the loading arm feet. Then I'm gonna raise the side support and the chain turner up to where I can unhook the chain. Now, if I unhook that chain without lowering those feet, I'm gonna have to carry every bit of that weight to the ground. Now it's gonna rotate that back.
Okay.
Makes it a lot easier to move back. So just push against the bar, unhook the chain, let it rotate right now.
Okay.
This is the pin that I was telling you about for travel. This is what actually holds the head in place.
Oh, okay.
Just fold it down and hang the pin back.
So whenever you pick it up, it just picks it up off that pin and you just drop it. Okay.
Yeah, just fold it down. Because you gotta have everything below your bed here.
Yeah.
So. Tell you what, let me grab that crank down and retighten these down here. Okay, now you remember how I had that leg snugged up?
Yeah.
It's out off the ground now?
Yeah.
That's that weight transfer. I was telling you about. That's what I'm gonna snug that back up. Now I'm gonna drop this load. I usually get this one last, that way the head's not in your way.
Not in your way.
And you notice I don't hang those little clips back, because once you get pressure on them,
They're not going anywhere.
Just like that. All right, guys, that's the setup. If we had a blade on it, we'd lower the loading arms, drop the chain turner, load the log, and start sawing. That quick and easy. So you're gonna get to see this in reverse when we psych it back up.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
No.
Simple enough. What I'm gonna do is drop some of this stuff down, and we'll carry the head to the tail end, and we'll put the blade on. Now, these little clips, once you get these legs in place, if you're gonna set it up stationary for quite some time, you might wanna put these on. Some people do, some people don't. And it just slips over that nut on the top, and keeps it from rattling loose.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna be using it at the house, but I'm gonna be trailering it too places. So, I mean, I'm planning, I got a garage, I'm gonna actually keep it in a building. So, I mean, it's gonna be set up and taken down, set up and taken down, so I'm gonna be using a lot of that.
Do you pretty much need a cement pad to set this thing on?
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, if you're out on dirt or what have you, it doesn't want to slide around because that concrete's slick and it won't shimmy around with you, whereas on dirt it doesn't. Okay, now a couple of things I want to go over with you here before we slap the blade on. First thing is your blade wheel belts. These are the belts that the blade actually rides on. If I can give you any advice as far as a spare part take home, get you a set of these to go home with.
Okay.
You'll buy them here cheaper than you will anywhere else. They're made by Goodyear, especially for Wood Mizer. In fact, you can see right here, Wood Mizer, B57. That means belt 57 inches long.
Oh, okay.
You get in a bind and go to Advance, AutoZone, hell, even Napa. You say, hey, I need a B57. They'll say, sure, they'll hand you one, and you're gonna pay about twice for it. It's what you will here, and they won't work. The reason being, it'll be a Gates. It'll have a rounded top.
Oh, okay.
Now,
Instead of being flat.
Instead of being flat, and you will not keep a blade on it. I've tried. I've been there and done it.
And what's the average lifespan of something like that?
Normal wear time is about 200 hours.
About 200
but
hours.
you're going to break a blade, you're going to throw a blade off. And when that happens, these wheels are spinning on a kind of momentum.
Yeah.
That blade's never bouncing around. 9 times out of 10, it chews the belt up and you need to replace it.
Okay.
Especially sawing stuff like pine. Sawing stuff like pine, what'll happen is these belts are slack so you can get them on and off.
Yeah.
And of course the slack runs where the blade doesn't. Well, sap and sawdust are flying around in there, especially sawing real sappy material, and eventually it'll start to build up underneath this belt. And I get this call all the time, especially comes spring, summer when the sap's high in trees. They're like, my mill's shaking like crazy and making this weird racket, sawing pine. How did you know? I know what your problem is.
Yeah.
Stop what you're doing, pop your blade off, take the belt, work it right off the wheel, put your finger in there, you're gonna feel those lumps. And I just use a flat blade screwdriver, knock it out. Sometimes I even spray a little PB or WD-40 in there, it helps break that sap down. And you just pop it right out, clean your belts up, slide it back on. So
Okay.
you're gonna have vibration anyway, just because it's a machine, but
Yeah.
you're gonna get used to it, and you're gonna know when it's excessive, and that's gonna be when you need to check that. So sawing hardwoods, things like that, you don't experience it quite as much. It's
Yeah,
just sap
I don't think
experience.
I'm probably be doing hardly any pine. We're mainly like red oak, white oak, poplar, and
Okay.
walnut.
All right, yeah, we'll set you up with a hardwood blade then.
Yeah, yeah. I
the
won't
blade,
hardly any pine.
the blade that comes with it today is a 10 degree. That's a general purpose. That's more for pine, poplar, cedar, occasional oak. But if you're gonna saw predominantly hardwood,
Yeah.
run a hardwood blade, even when you're sawing softwoods.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to be predominantly hardwood.
Gotcha, okay. But keep your eye on these belts. You notice how high it stands up out of the pulley. That's because it's new, of course. When it starts to wear out, it'll become flush. The blade starts contacting your wheel, and you're going to start breaking blades. So
Okay.
get you a set of these. And I'm telling you, we're having a hard time getting them right now.
Oh, that's what I figured.
We happen to have some in, so
Yeah.
get them while you can, is what I'm saying. Periodically check your rollers, spin them, make sure they're not roaring, make sure they're not loose. Make sure something hasn't got in here and jammed it up and caused a flat spot. Flat spot on a roller does not work. So keep your eye
Now,
on
is that like a heavy wear item?
Yeah, that is a wear item. Usually, unless you have some kind of crazy bearing failure, that's usually about a 500, 600 hour item.
Okay.
So I wouldn't suggest going home with a set of those.
Okay.
Around over here, if you notice you have this sticker, it's kind of hard to see in the position of the wheel that says oil level full and add.
Yeah.
It's hard to see out here in this low light, guys, but when you get home, this little hole here in the cover, if you look in the direction I'm pointing, there's another sticker in there on this main bearing, and there's a sight tube, clear sight tube. And that's the oil level in your main drive bearing. Keep your eye on that. I think the manual's gonna tell you need to change it about 500 hours. You can if you want to. Most people don't. What I see happening here is people look, oh yeah, I got fluid. This is 4 or 5 years down the road. No, they don't.
Yeah.
What happened is that fluid stained the tube.
Oh,
That
okay.
little clear tube dry rotted. Well, it cracked. Fluid ran out underneath this cover where sawdust is built up, so you never saw a leak.
Right.
Bearing runs dry and the bearing goes out. So periodically, pull this cover off. It's just 3 bolts at the top to the bottom. It comes right off.
Okay.
That sight tube's right in front of you. Grab it, squeeze it. And if it's starting to get hard and brittle, just go to your local Ace Hardware, and you can pay about 25 cents for a foot of it.
Yeah.
And replace it. Automatic transmissions with it. In fact, while we're talking about that, everything on this mill is ATF except for the engine oil.
Okay.
So main drive bearing, ATF. The hydraulic pumps, ATF. And what's in it now is a clear fluid. I think it's called a Wright. The reason they use that is they don't know if this mill's headed to Alaska or South America.
Right.
It's got a wider temperature working around it.
Okay.
Around here, Alltrans, Mercon, Dextron, pink stuff's fine.
Okay.
So, do not put hydraulic fluid in those pumps. It will not work.
Okay.
ATF. Engine oil, 10W30. Change it the first 50 and then every 100 after.
Okay.
Stay on top of that. Other lubrication, get you a pump squirt bottle. I'm bad about just taking a quart of ATF and screwing a squirt top on it and go around the mill. The sides of the mast where it's black, where your pads slide up and down, the up and down chain, power feed chain, the top rail, your blade guide arm, any place you have movement, ATF.
Okay.
Every morning before you start the saw, take 10 minutes. Go over the whole machine. I promise you have way less trouble than people that don't. So, ATF is your best friend. People say, why do you use that? Well, it lubricates real well. It lubricates real well and sawdust doesn't stick to it like it does other
Oh, okay.
things. All right, blade. This is a one-man job. You get 2 people doing it. Somebody winds up cutting. So, what I usually do is I just pinch it in the middle, slide it behind the mast, drop it in at the bottom, and then at the top. Now, you see the little guards here?
Yep.
You want to make sure that you're, or deflectors, whatever you want to call them, you want to make sure you're in between those, not underneath them. We'll slide it around the idle wheel. We're going to come straight over here to the drive and slide it around there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to flush up back of band, back of wheel, top and bottom, both sides. And what that does is that just ensures me that I'm super close to where it's going to naturally track. and it's not gonna throw the blade off because I got it on.
So you said you're mating at the back of the band with the back of the
back
wheel?
of the back of the blade, back of the wheel, flush
Okay.
it up. Top and bottom, both sides. That's real close to where it's gonna naturally track. All right, we're ready to tension it up. Remember guys, when you get home, you're like, what in the world did he say, what did he do? Look around, everything's illustrated for you. It shows you clockwise increases blade tension. All blades 2,800 to 3,000.
Okay.
Now, since this is a wide head, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, I'm gonna keep it at 3, and I'm probably gonna run it at 35. I've noticed that a little bit more tension, you get a more accurate cut.
Okay.
You're not gonna break this blade with this tensioning system.
Okay.
But what I see here is people say, I'm breaking blades like crazy. What it is, they're overrunning the blade, meaning it's been dull. It's no longer cutting, it's tearing.
Oh, okay.
There's that much more friction. Friction creates heat, and it's the expansion and contraction of that blade that breaks it. So that blade's got enough strength to pick your truck up out there. You're not gonna break it with good. So yeah, we're gonna crank this bad boy up where we do. I'm gonna go on past 3,000 because I know when I engage it for the first time and everything gets seated in, it's gonna really back off. So
Okay.
just go on past.
Now, does it matter blade tension of what species of wood you're cutting, or is that irrelevant?
Irrelevant.
Okay.
Yep, irrelevant. So we're good to go.
All right.
Ready to put the covers on. Pretty simple, isn't it? With you, and certain other little things aren't working the way they should. I have customers calling all the time, how old's the mill? It's 5 years old. How old's your battery? Well, it's original battery. Replace your battery. There ain't nothing wrong with that battery. It cranks the motor just fine. Don't call me back until you replace that battery.
Yeah.
They'll call me back the next day. This thing's still acting up. You replace the battery. No. Don't call me back until you replace that battery. And then they don't call back because they replace the battery and the problem's good.
Problem's fixed.
So keep that in mind. We've already gone over fuel tank, water lube tank. That's just water and Dawn dishwashing detergent. You can see all those jugs of Dawn.
Okay.
We go through a pile of it. So
Now let me ask you a question though. I see a lot of guys running diesel fuel in there.
don't do that.
Don't do that?
Don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do that. For one, it kills your blade wheel bells because
Okay.
it gets all over. It eats them up.
Okay.
The petroleum eats it up. So don't. And it's getting all over your wood.
Yeah.
Mist is getting all over you. Don't run diesel fuel. In fact, we have customers they'll call in and they'll say, I ain't getting no time at all out of these belts. They're just coming all to pieces. Well, what are you running any lube? I run diesel fuel. We immediately flag his account. Do not warranty belts. Customer runs diesel fuel.
Okay. So just water and Dawn?
Yep.
Okay. Now, do you put any pine sol or anything? I see some people do that.
You'll hear people say that. Well, it's kind of like I tell everybody, pour soap in one hand and pine sol in the other and tell me which one's slicker.
Okay. So just Dawn and water.
That's
Now,
all
what's
I
the?
need.
Is there like a certain percentage?
never
Or
measured.
just okay.
I fill the jug up with water, I pump it out of those bottles in there till it's good and blue and it's soapy when it comes out.
Okay.
I'd say I put at least a cup. If I'm
Okay.
sawing something real sappy, yeah, I may put 2 cups in.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, like I said, I
whatever
don't
it
plan
takes.
on sawing hardly any
Yeah.
pine. But
So you'll be fine with a cup of Dawn.
okay, cup of Dawn and water.
For your
All right.
hardwood job. Now, y'all are up there in West Virginia, it gets a lot colder there than it does here. Make sure you see that few jugs of windshield washer fluid.
Yeah.
If it's cold weather, I'd put at least two gallons per 5 gallons
Of that
jug.
antifreeze windshield washer fluid?
Windshield washer fluid
Yeah.
to keep it from freezing up. So. Fuse box is located here. You actually have 2 different circuits. You have a circuit for all of your head power and then a circuit for your hydraulic power.
Okay.
More than likely, you'll never go in there, and if you do, it'll be on the hydraulic side, simply because if you follow this heavy red welding cable, it comes over to what's known as a spring-loaded brass contact. See it moving?
Yeah.
Well, that is what makes contact with the strip to supply the power to your pumps. Well, everybody calls in, my hydraulics aren't working, or they're just clicking, or they're doing this. Well, they think that their strip's messed up. The strip is not the consumable, it's not the wear item, it's the brass contact. And as it wears down, and when you back up on that strip, instead of it bumping out about 1/8, it doesn't move. And it's no longer making a good solid contact. When you hit that lever, it'll arc from the contact to the strip. And that's an amperage spike and it blows the fuse.
Okay.
So if you ever are operating the mill and you back up on the strip and you hear click, 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 or it doesn't do anything, and you start looking at that strip and it looks like somebody's drug a welding rod down it, that's where it's been arcing and you need to adjust it.
Okay.
And I even tell people, clean your strip up with some emery cloth, adjust this end to where when you back it up on the strip, you see it bump out by 1/8.
Okay.
All right, tell you what, y'all stand here in front of the controls and I'll stand to the side of the point. Now, one thing I haven't touched on is drive belt, your main drive belt from the engine crankshaft pulley down to your drive pulley. You're gonna need to adjust that about the first 15 to 20 hours on this mill.
Okay.
As Wendy already gone through your manuals and all with you?
Well, she gave them to me, yeah.
Okay. Did she show you that little gauge that was in your manual?
Yeah, there was a gauge in there.
Okay, it's a belt tension gauge is
Yeah.
what it is. When you get ready to do that, go on YouTube, or even I think it's on our website.
Okay.
I haven't really researched because I do it so much and don't need to know. But anyway, go on there and watch the video. It's so much easier to watch the video and do it than me sit here and try to explain it to you because
Okay.
I don't remember it anyway. But just keep in mind that main drive belt, you're going to need to adjust that 15 to 20 hours.
Okay.
Now, this is kind of a holdover. You're not going to use this. The reason being you've never run a mill before, you're going to stare at this screen. You're not going to stare at the blade height scale, but I grew up on a mill that didn't have a computer, so I still look up here all the time. Now on this mill, you have 3 different scales. You have the standard inch scale on the right, and then you have 2 different quarter scales over here on the left. Now, the standard inch scale is just like a tape measure you carry on your side. An inch is an inch, and it's broke down to 1/16 of an inch increments. And the way you sight either one of these scales is by this center pin. Don't go by the top, don't go by the bottom. Cover up the black mark with that center pin.
Okay.
Now, again, you got a computer here, so you're really not going to use this, but let's say that we're at 9 inches off of the deck, okay? I want a 1 inch board, so I'm going to go to 8. I go to 8 inches. Now, that's a 1 inch board, right?
Right, mine's your blade
So-
curve.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. So, if I'm making 1 inch drops on this standard inch scale, that blade's not taking out quite an 1/8. An 1/8 is 125 thousandths, and this blade's taking out 95. So I'm going to average 7/8 to 15/16 of an inch thick board, depending upon how accurate I hit that mark each time, if I'm doing it manually. All this stuff you see here, that's just 2 inch drops and 1 inch drops. So that's slightly under 2, slightly under 1.
Okay.
Now, on your quarter scale, over here, it's adjustable. And like every one, we got it too tight. I'm going to go grab the wrench and set that over.
Okay.
disengaging for me.
With the clutch.
Yeah.
for the panel, honestly. Like, you could easily set up a GoPro somewhere, like walk the blade go across. That would look real sweet. I was thinking about it as we were cutting up and looking to see what sawdust over here was.
How come that roof's so wet?
Huh?
How come it's so wet?
Oh, I don't know. I guess it's brush. I don't know. I mean, most of the stuff we're gonna cut's gonna be like oak and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
That's old pine.
That's fine. I'm not gonna cut on
Oh, that's fine.
That's fine.
So that's like what we're in December.
Hey, keep getting more off.
still want bend them. Still want bend them on the floor. How do you, what? The engine before you bolt on.
What do you mean? The